Yeah, we thought we'd kick off the new year with a video all about seasonal affective disorder, just to cheer everybody up for the new year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, because you can't see the sads kicking in already.
No, it's definitely.
Have you took the fucking Christmas decorations down?
I don't know. Is it sadder to take them down straight after Christmas Day, or is it sadder to leave them up? I don't know.
Depends, I think, because I go through this thing where, like, normally around the 27th, I'm like, right, I'm ready to rip it all down, but I'm not going to because I also know that I've got to wait right the way till December the 1st to put them back up. So I'm like, no, they must stay up as long as possible.
Yeah. It's supposed to be the 6th of January, isn't it?
Yeah, but
that's the end of the 12 days of Christmas.
The thing is, though, if I didn't have to go back to work before then I would leave them up. But I've got to come back to work, so. And if I don't take them down, I think we both know if we don't take them down, they'll still be up next December.
Yeah. Is it Spain where the 6th of January is where you do your presents? Because that's when the wise men got to Jesus, isn't it?
I think so, because I'm sure I've heard my stepdad say that before, because he lived in Spain for 20 years, and I'm sure he said that it was before, but I might just be talking shit, or he might be talking shit. Both would not surprise me.
We all might be talking shit. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, probably not anymore, but I know the tradition was for the 6th of January to be the day that celebrated when Jesus got his gifts.
It's a long time to wait after your birthday, isn't it?
It is really. And were they his Christmas presents or his birthday presents?
I don't know, but they were a bit shit for a baby, really, weren't they?
Well, the gold would have been alright. Well, obviously, wouldn't have appreciated it at the time. But,
I was waiting to see how long it would take the penny to drop there for you. The baby would have no use for gold.
Didn't do much good, will it? No. How to get cancelled.
Well, if anyone who is listening would like to know what they're in for, it's the same old shit, apparently. Because it might be a new year, but
we do try to be helpful and informative. Happens now and again, sporadically.
So yeah, SADS. I believe that January last year you did a nice little presentation on SADS. I wasn't going to talk about the presentation. I was introducing the topic.
Say that again.
So I believe January last year you did a nice little presentation on SADS, and that was one of the things that kicked us off to have the idea to do this. And as anyone who has watched the sporadic episodes over the last year will know, that we'll try. that's all that matters.
Yeah. No, I remember talking to my manager about it, and obviously I noticed that throughout December and up to Christmas there was a lot going on in the office. Like, our manager brought us all advent calendars. There was just chocolate everywhere, obviously decorations and all that shit. And then everyone was looking forward to the Christmas party and all this. And I just thought at some point we're all going to come back to work after New Year, and the office is going to be bare. There's going to be nothing really to look forward to or to celebrate. So why don't... So this is the original idea was supposed to be more of a kind of, let's have a think about things we can be grateful for and look forward to in January. Then it became a kind of, just do a presentation on seasonal affective disorder, which, was one aspect of what I was trying to do, but not the only one that actually went anywhere.
So you got your fruit.
Oh yeah, fruit. Yeah.
I feel like I just saw PTSD come across your face there when I mentioned fruit.
Look, there's nothing like rebalancing your mental health and a nice banana.
Joking there somewhere. Anyway, but yeah, so I mean, obviously you hit the nail on the head there. You've got all of the glitz and glam essentially of Christmas and the presents and the being around people all the time and all that sort of shit to look forward to. And I'm pretty sure we can all agree January's just a little bit depressing. I mean, you've got to wait God knows how long to get paid. The weather's shit. It's what I keep looking at because I can hear the wind.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not a fun time. So I think the point that you make about, things to be grateful for, things to look forward to, etc., in January are a really good thing to kind of get in place as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's always felt like such a kind of harsh drop off, I suppose, with the build up to Christmas. And then, obviously, I remember back in school, it's like you go back to school after your Christmas holidays and the whole school feels a bit bare and it's kind of like, right, back to work now. And it's such a sudden shift in people. And like, obviously, there's various factors that go into SADS that we'll talk about, but I think one of them is how much of a change it is for people. And then, like you say, most workplaces they pay you early for Christmas, so then you have to wait longer for your January pay. And it's yeah, and then obviously you got other factors as well. So yeah, it's just not generally a very nice time, really.
Not really anything to look forward to, because I mean, like, even February, like, whether you celebrate or not, like for Valentine's Day, like, there's stuff you can look forward to, or like as a bare minimum in February, it's like, this is it, we're on the countdown to the light nights now. Like,
Yeah.
there's always, every other month there is stuff going on or something that you can look forward to, and then January just feels like it's one of those months that you just want to hibernate.
Yeah, something you need to kind of get through.
I think it's probably not helped by. I mean, I know I'm very well aware that I'm going to come across the hypocrite here because I am doing dry January myself. But like, it's dry January, veganuary, red January, which is where you run every day for a month that my mother does and blows my mind, but not the point. Like, it's all about like, I'm going to change this, I'm going to eat better, I'm going to start going to the gym, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make all these lifestyle changes. And I think especially our generation are really good at going, no, we're fucking not. We're just not. We're going to say all this shit and then we're just not going to do it.
Yeah, it's true. We're a lot more honest, it seems, about the fact that New Year's resolutions are kind of doomed to fail from the start. We can talk about that as well. I mean, there's reasons behind that. But yeah, I mean, it's a kind of. I've always thought like the New Year, New Me thing. I always remember. So when I used to go to meditation, the instructor was talking about this, and he was saying that obviously just how arbitrary it is with our calendar. Like we just decided that the end of January, start of January is the new year. But you were saying that if you look around, like what about the world strikes you as New Year? Like everything's still dead. Like trees are still bare, still cold. Nothing grows in the ground. Like we're still in that hibernation stage of winter, basically, and then you're expected to have all these New Year's resolutions and kind of go through this like rebirth of stopping smoking and exercising more. And he said, like, if you're going to do it, why not chime it with like the actual New Year, which is around springtime when things start to grow again, because you're literally surrounding yourself with new life, and it inspires you to do it more. So I always thought that was quite interesting. It's just a very, when you think about it, it's a very strange time of the year to start trying to do new things.
When it's shit, bluntly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I try really hard there not to go on like one of my little rants about paganism that I normally go on, as you can tell probably by the way that I don't know if you can see, but you can see us physically gripping on things and fiddling to try and keep yourself from interrupting you.
Yeah.
But, for that same reason as what the instructor said to you, the new year makes sense being in spring, not the middle of fucking winter.
Yeah.
It's depressing enough to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, like the seasonal in the seasonal affective disorder. If you look at the season and what's going on in winter, days are shorter. So you don't get as much sunlight, and then even in the hours of the day where the sun is out, it's cold. Most people kind of just want to avoid it as much as possible. So to try and again implement these changes with that backdrop just seems really unnecessary. Because imagine if you like one of your resolutions is to do more running. It's like, we'll do it at a time when you've got more time in the day and more sunlight to do it in. Otherwise, you're just fighting a losing battle, really. And then obviously that can't help. Obviously, setting New Year's resolution at the start of January, couple of weeks into the month, and you've already started to fall back on them. Like, that's not going to help your mental health either.
No, Not at
that's
all.
just, you can just start beating yourself up about the fact that you weren't able to stick to things, and seems like a strange way to do it.
I remember like last year when we were talking about this, and I was on about New Year's resolutions and stuff, and said like while it's pretty much the same thing, just the way I think about it's slightly different. That I set goals for the calendar year,
Yeah.
and that they're not set on right. I need to start them immediately, and it needs to be every day or whatever it is. It's more like when I get to the end of the year and I'm doing my review with myself and I'm checking in with myself, that I want to make sure that by that point I'm happy with the progress on them. And like, you know, it's the same when people go, I'm going to stop smoking this year. Right. If you don't though, how are you going to feel about yourself?
Yeah.
Like, check in with yourself. What's an actual achievable goal across the course of the whole year, rather than like, I'm going to make this sudden lifestyle change. Because especially with things like actual lifestyle changes, like, you know, getting fitter, eating better, quitting smoking, quitting drinking, whatever it may be, whatever your vices or whatever your issues are. Like that very sharp, sudden lifestyle change is quite hard to do when it's not a habit.
Yeah, exactly. It's far too vague as well. I suppose, I mean, stopping smoking, I suppose, yeah, but things like that, like, getting healthier, getting fitter, it's like, okay, so what do you actually mean by that? Like, what are your actual targets here? If you just say getting fitter, again, anyone who's works in an office knows about the whole, like, SMART criteria for setting goals, and, like, they are kind of useful if you think about it. It's like, are you being specific enough about your goal, blah, 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 all the rest of them. So, yeah, and I think utilizing New Year's as a kind of checkpoint, like you just said there, of just as a convenient time of the year to check in with how you're getting on, and it's good to kind of compare yourself to where you were this time last year. So I get all that. And I think it's New Year's resolutions as they're traditionally utilized that we're kind of talking about. But you're right, like setting goals can in theory be done at any time of the year, but New Year's, if you want to utilize that to do it, there's nothing wrong with it.
And it does make sense to do it that way, because like I say, it's a nice little point to kind of go, right, okay, check in at where I'm at in my life, what I want to see change, like what level of change would I be happy with, like, because you know yourself with goal setting, there is the ultimate goal, but we all also have a point that would be happy enough with for the first attempt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for instance, over the course of 2024, I no longer am a smoker, but I still had cigarettes. Okay, I'll take that. At the end of 2025, I'd like to have had less cigarettes over the course of the year, so on and so forth. Like, there is other ways to break it down than having not putting yourself in a position where you're going to beat yourself up over it, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, like that. That's why, generally speaking, they're too broad and vague. So just like stop smoking, I say. So if you had like one cigarette one random day in January because you were stressed or you were out drinking or whatever, like you're gonna straight away that's a failure of your New Year's resolution. But if you look at it in terms of, right, so I had like 200 cigarettes throughout December, like that's a massive improvement, and like you should be congratulated and feel good about it. But yeah, you're setting yourself up for failure if you just say, right, I'm going to stop this and like go completely cold turkey.
I think that's another reason why a lot of people's New Year's resolutions fail, though, like because once they've had one, they go, oh, well, I broke it now, I might as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than, like, say, looking at it going, right, okay, in a normal week, I would smoke 50 cigarettes, and it's 3 weeks into January, and this is the first one I've had, and that's a win in my book.
Yeah, which I think is, and it's useful to talk about, because I think people will be interested in hearing about how to make goals a lot more achievable and allow you to stick to them more effectively. And I think, like being specific about your actual targets. So like stopping smoking is if we just take that as an example, because it's quite a common one. So that's the broad kind of overarching resolution. So what's the first step? So okay, so have a look at your current situation and say, how many cigarettes do I tend to smoke per day? Let's say
honestly.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Let's say it's, for argument's sake, 20 a day, whatever. It's like, okay, so are you going to reduce that gradually and say, right, for the first week of January, I'm going to limit myself to 10, and then 5 the next couple of weeks, and then hopefully by the end of January I'm down to like 1 or 2 maybe, or you're just going to say, no, from the 1st of January I'm going to have nothing and see how that goes.
Yeah. I think as well, like a lot of it's kicking the actual habit itself, and not in the term of like, oh, you need to kick the habit as a whole, like as in the actual like the thought process that goes into it. I mean, I think you watched me do it on the back end of 2024, like run up to January, where I had to drastically decrease the amount of pop I was intaking because I'd been to the doctors, not very well. Pop was aggravating it. You know yourself, all I ever drank was pop. And it was getting out of the habit of reaching for the bottle of pop automatically rather than the juice.
Yeah.
Like, it's those little things that you don't even notice you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, I know when I stopped smoking, the time I missed it the most was the walk from my front door to the metro. Because every day for 10 plus years, I had rolled a cigarette before I left the house, lit it as I got out the front door, and was done by the time I got to where I was.
Yeah. But that's always a big thing, isn't it? When you're trying to instigate some kind of change, and especially when you're trying to stop doing something, it's have a look at your what you would call at-risk moments or situations in the day. So like that. So when would you most likely to have a cigarette? I think for people it's quite common. It's like after meals is a big one, isn't it? Or like the first one of the day. Those sorts of things. So it's planning ahead to say, right, I know that there's going to be periods of the day that are going to be harder than others. So how am I going to navigate that? What can I do after dinner instead of smoking? And the habits thing as well that you mentioned. So I think a lot of people realise that when they're trying to stop smoking, there's things that they didn't consider at the outset. Like they notice that they're quite fidgety because smoking is something to do with your hands, especially if you roll as well. It's like there's something there, and that's why people invest in things like fidget spinners and stuff when they're trying to stop something, because there's that need to do something with your hands when you would normally be.
And like the actual pattern of breathing that's involved and that sort of stuff, all that kind of shit. Like it's all stuff that you don't realise until you don't have it anymore. And that goes for everything. You say it's even like it's obviously the same for breaking habits as forming new ones. It's like if you don't go to the gym but you want to start going to the gym, going right, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 4 times a week from now on. You're not though, are you?
Yeah.
Like because it's not a habit. Like granted, I mean, I'm just going to give it a second in case you wanted to cut this. Am I alright to use your example of the gym because of training?
Absolutely,
those guns.
I think a lot of people are going to see this and think, how did he manage to achieve that level of anyway, carry on.
You asked me to go for a run and I went, fuck you, and signed you up for the Great North Run. That's exactly what happened. But like that's a prime example. Okay, like you said to me back in March, back end of February, I want to get into running. Like I do like it when I'm doing it, but I can't stick at it. I get the 5K and then I just drop off because it's like I'm bored. I went, cool, guess what? Signed you up to do Great North Run. And you went, I hate you. What happened? You did the fucking Great North Run. And you did it in 3 hours and 3 minutes. And to be fair, if it wasn't for the fact you were waiting for me, you'd have done it in under 3. So it was that having that to force you helped, but then afterwards, because you were in the habit of going to the gym 4 times a week, you continued to go 4 times a week. Had you not had that goal in place of like the training for a specific event, bluntly from your past experiences with trying to get into it, you probably wouldn't have. Sometimes you have just got to kind of take a gamble, a help force you to do something.
I think it's, I mean, everyone's different and it's important to know or have a decent idea of what does motivate you. So like for me, I mean, it wasn't just the fact that you'd signed us up for the Great North Run, it was the fact that we were doing it for charity as well. So if I said no to that, I would have sounded like a complete arse.
But no, we went over target.
Exactly, yeah. So that was a big thing for me. But no, you're right, habit forming, and I don't know if this is just one of those stats that you see now and again. I don't know how true it is, but that whole, is it 21 days to form a habit? I don't know where
something like that.
So it's just, the more, like at the outset of change, you probably are going to be a bit more, going to have to be a bit more disciplined with yourself. But over time, it becomes habit.
And I think just sorry, I'm going to jump slightly back a bit. Like you said about knowing how you work, that helps as well. Because I think if I'd have just said, yeah, I've signed us up for the Great North Run, but it's not for charity, I don't think you'd have pushed yourself as hard as you did because of the way that your brain works. You were more inclined to do it because it was for shelter than what it was because it was just for your own personal gains. But that's because that's just how your brain works.
Yeah.
The same way that, like, as you know, me 30 things before 30 list, which is going to have to get rapidly hammered through the remainder of because like that was what forced me to stop just letting life pass me by. I put a target date in place and went, this is shit I want to do before then, and it made us get more outgoing, more willing to say yes to things that I wouldn't normally have, that sort of shit.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm like you, need a bit of a nudge to force us to form new habits.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people who, if I'd done that to them and gone, like, I've signed you up for the Great North Run, it would have been an argument. It would have been a fucking argument. But I knew you well enough by that point to be like, this isn't going to be an argument. This is going to be like, fuck's sake, now I'm going to have to do it.
Yeah. It's things like that. And I know this is easy to say, but it's like when you achieve something of that magnitude, it's like you thinking back to how I felt when you first told me about it. Like there was a part of, obviously I was motivated by why we were doing it and everything. I thought that would be really cool. But like there was a level of me thinking this isn't gonna happen because it just seems like too far away for me to be able to achieve. Looking back on it now, and like we've spoken about it before about the prospects of doing it again this year, and it's like
I'd like to point out you want to do it again this year as well.
But yeah, just that ability to properly surprise yourself, and then that kind of starts kicking in that mindset of like, what else am I capable of here actually? Like the running, running. I keep that as an example. Like the first time I did a full 5K without stopping. Like again, at the start of the process, like the idea of that was just ludicrous. I started with the Couch to 5K app and was struggling after like week 2. And it's that overcoming that defeatist attitude. It's really hard to do just through your own willpower. So like giving yourself these reasons to do it, targets to aim for, is always gonna help.
I can remember, like, in just sticking on the topic of it, like in the March, I think it was probably at the back end of March when we were running around the park and we would stop to take a break. And I remember you saying, it was like, I can't do this. And I literally remember letting you just get it off your chest, say what you needed to say to get it off and being like, you good? And you were like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And you kept going. And come to the fucking day, you were way better than I was. Like you didn't struggle as much as I did anything. Like and it is all just about finding what works for you, and for you that was something that motivated you. And by the time you got there and you did it and you got the runner's high, which by the way, real thing, like actual real thing. Like once it finished, you were like, no, I've worked hard to get to this point, I'm gonna keep going. And you've kept going.
Yeah.
And then now, like you say, the other day you were like, should we do the Great North Run this year? And I'm like, oh, I've started something here. I'll sign you up for the New York Marathon next.
So yeah, I think if you are going to set New Year's resolutions, just be mindful of the initial work you probably will need to put into them to make sure that you're not going to fail at the first hurdle. And if you do slip up, it's a slip up. It's not an indication that you completely failed and that you have to go back or give up completely. It's human nature to occasionally slip up from time to time.
You know, I remember years ago somebody said this to me, and it's always stuck with us ever since. What would have happened if when you were a baby and you first tried to walk, when you first landed on your ass, that you'd just gone, well, I guess walking's not for me then. Like, or like when you first tried to speak and you didn't get a word correct and your parents corrected you, you went, oh, well, I guess talking's not for me. Nobody just does things automatically overnight and is really good at it and can stick with something overnight. You've got to learn. And I don't know, part of us as well always thinks there's a certain point where you do get in your head, no matter who you are, you go, this just isn't for me. I I'm never going to be the person who can run a half marathon. I'm never going to be the person who doesn't smoke. I'm never going to be the person who can say no to a drink.
Any cognitive distortions, like that way of thinking, like what is your brain doing there? It's being defeatist. It's catastrophizing. It's applying or like making one instance of a slip up. It's turning it into a whole overarching mentality that isn't accurate and isn't true and can be challenged.
I think it goes for all areas of life. If you're using words like never and always to describe something, it's probably catastrophizing.
Yeah.
Because nobody could never run, like, obviously within reason, I'm not going to go into it, but or never be able to eat better or never be able to do this. And obviously there is certain things where there's a money element involved as well. And in that case, then you've got to just kind of get off social media with all the bloody shite. Like, you can eat better on whatever budget you have. You can get healthy on whatever budget you have. It doesn't have to be this glorious, like, oh, look at all of my really expensive vegan meals that I've made, and just, all right, okay, well, I bought apples instead of chocolate. That's a win.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, we've talked about before the pitfalls of social media for many different reasons. And I'm aware that someone's probably viewing this on a social media platform, so I do get the irony. But yeah, no, I don't know if other people have. I don't know if you've noticed, but my TikTok or Instagram algorithms are really kicking in with sending me more gym-related videos. And I don't know whether that's me that I've watched a couple because of the time of year it is, but it's like that self-fulfilling thing of there's going to be more of these. Like some of them are helpful, but majority of them set this unrealistic expectation and precedent of you see this big dude who's got muscles already telling you to just do this, this, and this, and then you'll get muscle. And it's easy for you to say. I'm still trying to fight my Christmas belly fat, and you're there steaming a chicken.
Sorry, I don't know why that just really tickled us.
I don't want to eat steamed chicken. I've had a month of eating chocolates. I don't want to jump straight into it.
You of all people definitely not want to eat chicken.
I mean, yeah, when I say that, I don't dead animals anyway.
But I get what you're saying, because I haven't noticed it yet, but I haven't really been on my social media much, to be honest. I think back end of last year, I kind of made a conscious effort to start coming away from it as much as possible. As in the doom scrolling element. My TikTok the app's blocked between work and hours, and it's blocked 90% of the time. It's only available on a weekend for us. I've done the same where we obviously had said about the whole having self-care evenings and stuff. I've set my phone up so it becomes a brick on a self-care evening at 5 o'clock. My phone literally can do nothing until midnight. Actually, that's a lie. It can't do anything until 8 a.m. the following day, because I purposely thought if I set it till midnight, come midnight, I'll be phone. So, there are little things that you can do to help yourself form better habits, like that. If I don't know about iPhone because I'm not a wanker, but if you go on your phone on a Samsung and you click on your clock, you can click sleep, and from there you can set up work schedules, so what apps are allowed to be used during work and hours. As someone who's self-employed, that has been phenomenal because it stops me from just scrolling on Instagram. You can set up for sleep routine, so my phone goes into dark mode at 11 p.m. and doesn't come out until 7 a.m. That sort of shit.
Yeah. Would you say that's thinking about our generation and younger, the main things that people are probably going to be, because back in the day it was always drink less, smoke less, which is probably still a factor, but I think social media is going to be a big one for people. There's lots of people that are coming to that realization of how addictive social media is, how problematic it is.
It's an echo chamber. Yeah, I think so, because obviously, I think in the last 4 months or so, both me and you have had that realization of the amount of use that social media has to benefit your business, your career, to do shit like this. But it's also got its extremely negative sides.
Yeah.
Where it does get to a point where your brain is saying, hey, I want to stop scrolling now and I want to get up. And for some reason, your thumb's still just going.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, why? What the fuck? And I think once you get to that point where, if you're at a point where you in your head are going, I want to move, but you are not moving,
Mm-hmm.
and it's taken like extreme caution, like extreme thought process to get you to get off it, it might be worth having a look at how much you're using social media.
Well, that is one of the defining characteristics of addiction. It's doing things even though on another level you know that you don't want to, or ideally you wouldn't be doing this. So like reaching for a cigarette out of habit, smoking whilst knowing how harmful it is to you. Same thing with social media. It's like, you know, on one level that you'd rather be doing something else and you should probably put the phone down, but there's just something about you that can't. And like I'm seeing the term brain rot become more of a common thing these days.
It was the word of the year for the. I'm not going to fuck this up, but for Britain, basically, we decided that brain rot was our word of the year.
I didn't know that, but it makes a lot of sense.
Well, a slight problem with that because brain rot is 2 words, but not the point to continue.
Which, you know, so if you look at for people who don't know, so I was at TikTok. You know, it's a Chinese company. Like the way that the algorithms work for Western audiences is it's kind of just, you know, picks up on things that you watch a lot, and it kind of like tries to figure out what you're interested in. But it's much more likely to send you just guff and nonsense and things. It's like, and there's a whole, I don't know where I want to go into this. There's a whole like conspiracy theory. I might cut this out. There's a whole like conspiracy theory about how it's a kind of covert tool to reward Westerners because of how stupid they are.
I love that.
Whereas
I've not heard that version.
If you look at like the way TikTok is used in China, for example, like they reward people for watching educational videos and like I don't know. I only realised the last couple of weeks that TikTok have included like STEM now, so that you can scroll across and only watch scientific videos. That's a recent development, but
it's been a couple of months it's been there at least.
So, you know, TikTok literally promotes and rewards brain rot. And that's why, on top of being so difficult to let go of, it's also pretty damaging as well. It's like, yeah, you're not giving your brain any kind of input that's useful or interesting.
I think the one thing that I've found though with TikTok that can be quite useful, and I don't know why my brain does this, but if I come across a video about something, because I get quite a lot of like random history facts and stuff like that, and I am one of these people who I'll go, that sounds bonkers, there's no way that happened, Google, and like go and I'll come off TikTok, go onto Google and be like, right, and then that's how I deep dive into something. And like for that sort of stuff, for like educational purposes, has actually done us a load of good. Like, I mean, even the other week we watched the Lady Jane Grey thing on Netflix. I only was interested in that because I'd been watching a video on TikTok where Lady Jane Grey was mentioned now, and I don't know who that is. And then happened to scroll across the document, cool, I'm now going to watch this because I've got the question of like, what's the crack there? And I mean, especially in history, like as you're aware, and anyone who knows me is aware, I am not fucking good at history. But over the past couple of months, I've been getting better and I've been asking more questions and researching more to learn more things. I actually have been surprising people with the fact I know shit now, and that has stemmed off the back of TikTok. It's like everything, there's a fine line.
Yeah, I think it is useful for that. But like I think the other side, and I know this video wasn't supposed to be this, you know, review of 2024, but like one of the biggest stories of this year was the P. Diddy stuff. And a lot of people jumped on TikTok as a way to get as much information as possible about it. Problem is, you very quickly realise that it's not verified information. Like, it's very dangerous, like people who believe everything they see on TikTok. And then like the whole phenomenon of trial by social media, trial by TikTok is just very, very problematic for many different reasons. And it's like, and if you, I don't know if you've noticed this, but you know, when like you want to search for something in particular, so like you go into the search button and it will already have sort of suggestions, probably based on what most other people are searching for. I won't say the name of the celebrity, but one of the search results was so and so's allegations of misconduct, or whatever. And I read it and I thought, I've not heard anything about that. That's really weird. And given who the celebrity was, I was like, that sounds really, that doesn't sound true.
Tell me when we stop recording.
So then I did what you did. I jumped on Google and there was nothing there. I was like, somebody would have seen that and then automatically just thought, yeah, there's allegations against the celebrity, and then that would have. So I just think it's a platform that is useful, but just be very cautious of how you're using it.
Oh yeah, like at the end of the day, that platform is bluntly for entertainment purposes.
Yeah,
that's what social media as a whole is. It's for entertainment. Like, don't get me wrong, you do have actual, genuinely like educational information that is factually accurate on things like that, but that's a very small percentage of what you see.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's even like us, like, if you want to talk irony, like, we're talking about this now, and you might have someone who watches and goes, everything they say is gospel. It's fucking not. Like, if you knew us in real life, but, like, you know.
Oh,
I was going to say, I feel like you're thinking, speak for your fucking self. I am smart as fuck.
No, not at all. Yeah. Another thing is, and this is another separate rant about, I've noticed how the younger generation, kids today, they learn about footballers through watching like TikTok reels and things. So, like, Ronaldinho, one of my favourite players of all time, hasn't played professionally for a good few years now. So there's a whole new generation of fans coming through that are learning about him, and it's good on one hand that he played in a time where there was clear footage and you get to see all of his skills and stuff. But the problem is it's all accumulated into this 2-minute TikTok video where it's just skills and like him doing ridiculous things that he used to do with the ball and that. Problem is, I'm sure what's going on is that kids are now turning into and watching live football and expecting that every match. So like they might have heard about, there's an exciting footballer from United called Amad Diallo. I reckon like a lot of people are tuning into it and expecting what they see on these 2-minute TikTok reels of him doing all these skills and running past people for him to do it all the time. So then they'll watch 20 minutes of a match and be like, "Oh, he's a bit overrated. I don't really get the hype." It's like, yeah, it's because the world isn't designed for your 2-minute short attention span. I don't know where that one came from.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, I'm going to get a jar and I'm going to make you put £1 in it every time you go on an old man rant.
We are saving for a holiday, aren't we?
So, might as well get you a jar. But then again, I say that, but then you're going to force me to put £1 in it every time I go on an old lady rant. Because I swear to God, I don't know what it is about the last couple of months, but I feel like all I keep saying is, like, not to sound like a boomer, but...
It's turning 30. It does things to you.
Well, listen, I'm not quite there yet. I've still got a solid 10 months, just over 10 months, before I throw myself off a building. Sorry. Listen, we preface this with, we're aware this is a shit show.
Don't you mean unalive yourself?
What, unalive myself?
Yeah,
no.
Don't say that word anymore.
I've been unalive inside for years. It's a non-issue. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know how we got into that, but
I've just accepted that it should just be a shit show because that's our brains.
That's what I was going to say. So circling back to the idea of like giving things up and stuff. So there's again, I don't know if this is accurate, but there's basically I was listening to an Alan Watts lecture years ago, and he was talking about Zen Buddhism, I think, or Tao or whatever, one of the two. Basically, he was talking about a concept of when you're trying to stop doing something, don't let the devil know about it. By which he meant, if you announce to yourself and to the world, "I'm going to stop smoking," you're allowing all of these different factors that might knock you off your course to prevent that from happening. And because it's such a big, lofty, grandiose thing of like, "I'm going to stop smoking," it's like the first opportunity that comes across and you fail, you're done for. So what he was saying was a good mentality to have is, I'm going to not have a cigarette today. Get to the end of the day, look back and be like, there's a day that I had no cigarettes compared to yesterday when I had 5.
Yeah.
You get to the end of the day and you say, I'm not going to have another cigarette for the rest of the week. After that, I don't know. I'll decide when I get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that concept. I don't know if it's something you've heard of before, but I like that concept of shortening down your time frames, being specific about where you're trying to get to. So even if it is just the end of the day, is so much more helpful than just announcing that you're objectively going to stop doing something because you're setting yourself up for failure.
I wonder if that's where something that was said to me in DBT years ago came from, that rather than looking at, but it was broken down further, it was like rather than looking at the full day and thinking I've got to survive the whole day, just survive 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, I use that tactic. I think if I'm working and I don't feel well, I'll be like, right, okay, just tell you what, do 15 minutes and see how you feel in 15 minutes. Then after that, I'll go, right, okay, well, you just survive 15, do another 15. Like, especially when I was like severely depressed and like I really, really struggled with things, getting through the day in 15-minute increments, even though obviously there's a hell of a lot more 15-minute increments than you would believe, like, is actually easier. But it's all just about the shortness of it.
I think there's probably a link there. It's I suppose going back to what we were saying about cognitive distortions and catastrophizing and all of this black and white or all or nothing thinking. Like when you are at your most depressed, it's very common to have that mentality of like, I'm this, and this. The world is X, Y, and Z. Like you feel like that's all. It's so encompassing that you can't see anything else.
Yeah.
So a good way of countering that is, right, let's move away from this language of I'm always going to feel this way or nothing's ever going to get any better, and be like, okay, so can we get through the next 15 minutes? Can we get through the next half an hour? Can we get to the end of the day? And like setting shorter boundaries and checkpoints. It's just a much better way of keeping yourself grounded.
Yeah. And you know what, honestly, especially when you're first starting to try and change habits, fucking reward yourself for things. Like, if you get to the end of the week and you haven't had a cigarette all week, allow yourself that bar of chocolate. Allow yourself to go and buy that new book that you were like thinking, oh, I've got plenty. Oh, well, just fucking go and buy it. Like, bluntly, if you're quitting smoking, you've saved 3 times what that book cost anyway. So
I was just about to say that. Like, I think it's fairly common. It's like a good incentive is to consciously not really do it anymore because God, I sound so old. I was going to say back in the day when we used cash. But yeah, like consciously putting that money aside that you would have spent on your pack of cigarettes and then letting it build up, and then you get to the end of the month and like how expensive cigarettes are now. Like you've
disgusted.
So you've saved enough at least for like a night out or a new.
Well, if you think if you're an actual like cigarette smoker, not a really smoker, like I bought a pack of cigarettes the back end of last year for me and one of my friends on a night out. And I remember the look on his face when I jokingly went to him, you owe me £8 for half of them, by the way. And he was like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, yes, £16 something for a pack of 20. And I don't smoke the most expensive ones. When I smoke actual cigarettes, I will only smoke JPS Blue. So they're not the most expensive ones. £16. And I'm going to sound old now. They used to be £3.10 for a pack of 10. And even that was after they'd gone up.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not going to get on a rant about the cost.
It's true, but there's a reason why cigarettes in particular have become so expensive. It's because it's always that thing that the government can easily tax because it's the thing that really we shouldn't be doing. But
just on the reward thing as well, like it's the same with like eating better. Like people always say, like I'm going to eat better, and then like they'll get to the end of the first week and go, "Oh my god, I'm like proper craving a pizza." Like, right, eating better isn't the same as never eating pizza again or never eating the bar of chocolate again or anything like that. In moderation, everything is fine in moderation, but within reason. Heroin's not, but not the point. Like, if you get to the end of the week and you think, I'm going to use this example. You order a pizza every Friday. Would it be beneficial if you maybe learned how to make a pizza yourself? Because then that way on a Friday you could reward yourself for eating well all week with a homemade pizza, which costs you a hell of a lot less money for a start, and also isn't as unhealthy, but it's still satisfying that need for the craving. Trying to get past cravings by just cutting something out completely is just going to lead you to be irritable, wound up about everything, and you're more likely to cave. Like saying absolutely not, 120%, I will not have any form of crap to eat for the whole month of January. You're going to be a miserable cow by the end of it.
Yeah, I think it's fairly well known that like one of the biggest contributors to failing these sorts of things is sort of utilizing like I think most people would agree it's like the number one reason why these things fail is because of like we deny ourselves like to too much of an extent.
Yeah,
and you just become resentful for it. I was going to say, so one thing that's quite helpful with this is because generally, if you look at the most common New Year's resolutions or goals, or whatever, like they're all kind of aimed towards health in some way, mental health, physical health, whatever. So like stopping smoking, stopping drinking, eating healthier, more exercise. It's all geared towards living a healthier lifestyle, I suppose. And I think one thing to realize is that all of these things are interconnected. So if you're someone who smokes, drinks now and again, never does any exercise, doesn't get up like early enough in the day or whatever, that seems like a lot to try and change, and it's very overwhelming to try and do it all in one go. But if you can pick one of those things, not only have you made a good start, but you're also making the other things easier. So if you, for example, focus on right this week or this month, I'm going to focus on getting up at the same time every day. Let's say like earlier, 8 o'clock in the morning, or whatever. First of all, you're giving yourself more time to go to the gym. So you're like opening up a bit of space in the day for you to do these things. Start going to the gym, then you realise, okay, so I'm doing quite well at the gym, or I've been pretty consistent. Then you start to think, well, there's no point in me going to the gym so often if I'm still eating like crap and smoking. So that it gives you another reason then to think about, maybe I should limit the amount of smoke, and then you think, start setting these like personal bests on the treadmill, and you think, actually, if I just stop smoking, if I cut down my smoking by like half, I could probably do much more than this. And it all starts to feed into each other. Before you know it, you're kind of already on top of 3 or 4 different things in one go because you've decided to start somewhere. So to just choose what door to go through, and the rest will fall into place ideally.
I'm going to use you as the example there, and I've purposely give you a minute just in case. But you're the prime example of that. In the year I've known you, you literally don't drink anymore. You don't vape anymore. You go to the gym 4 times a week. You work for yourself now. All of that came off the back of the fact that you went, I'm going to do the Great North Run. Because the more you started going to the gym, you realised how much the smoking was affecting, the vaping was affecting your ability to run. Because you were like, you could run further without it. So you knocked that on the head. You never drank a lot anyway, but like again, you were like, why would I go out on a Saturday night when I want to go for a run on a Sunday morning? So you knocked the drinking on the head. Right? And then because you'd done the consistency, you kept up the gym. Like all of that stemmed from the fact that you made that conscious decision when I said, I've signed this up to go, okay, I'm going to do it. Like that's all on you off the back of one little decision.
Exactly.
And it didn't happen overnight, like in my head, I'm thinking about the checkpoints of when those things happened. And there was a couple of months in between each of them, if not longer. Like, but by the end of the year, you're like, I haven't seen you vape in nearly 6 months. Like, I haven't seen you drink since May, if not earlier. Like,
and again, you get to a point where, like, it's not a conscious thing anymore for me to actively avoid going for a drink or buying a vape from the shop. I just don't do it anymore because it's become habit.
Well, the vaping especially, I know is definitely habit because obviously I'm literally sat here with one in my hand now. I leave it in front of you and you don't touch it. February, if I'd left me vape and walked away, when I come back, I could guarantee it was in your hand. Like, that was the change all off the back of like, hey, I'm working so hard to get better. This is hindering me. Okay, cool. Now that I've got a better goal in my head of what I want, this can go out the window really easily. And that's the other thing as well. Understanding that if you try to quit something, especially something that's a vice, and it doesn't quite go how you thought it would because you're struggling to deal with it mentally, it is okay if you're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And that you need a bit more time because, like, again, for years, people used to go on to me about, you need to quit smoking, you need to quit smoking. I always just say, I'll quit when I'm ready. And granted, yes, okay, I vape, so some people would argue that it's not like it's worse or it's the same thing. But the fact that I stopped smoking cigarettes a year and a half ago literally stemmed from nosiness because all my friends vaped and I was at a house party. I couldn't smoke inside, but you could vape inside. I went out, every time I went out for a cigarette, I was missing chunks of conversations.
Yeah.
So I went round the corner and bought a vape and then never looked back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think from that, it's just that realization that success looks different to different people.
Yeah. I think that's a really key taken.
Really easy to be judgmental and be like, well, you're not doing very well because you're still vaping. It's like, yeah, well, look at what I was doing 2 years ago. Whatever. Wasn't.
No, I know.
I'm directed at you, but like just generally.
You know me well enough to know that was never going to be taken as a comment directed towards me.
Also, I think it's important to remember that, human beings, everybody has vices. Even Jesus had vices. He was a carpenter after all, wasn't he? Anyway, so yeah.
And on that delightful fucking hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does, like, success really does look different for everybody. And like, I know, like, you see it all the time, people say, like, you don't know what somebody else is going through, but it really is true. You genuinely don't. Like, it costs nothing to be nice. Even if you've got a negative opinion of that, just go, oh, okay. Like, it's not that hard to just not be a dick. And I know that we say that all the time, don't be a dick, but seriously, in the world that we currently live in, please, can you just stop being a total see you next Tuesday, man? Like,
people just generally respond better to positive reinforcement. Like, I know not in every case, but like, most studies show, most research into motivation will kind of name things like, a sense of competency is a big one. It's like the more you realize the better you're getting at something, the more likely you are to stick with it. Like relatedness is another one. So like you can relate what you're trying to do to something else, and that could just be people recognizing what you're doing and talking to you about it and engaging in a conversation about it. So yeah, like the best thing you can do for someone is to just literally take them for where they are, like listen to what they're trying to do with their lives, and if it doesn't fit your model of what a good life looks like, put your prejudices to a side and just be a decent human being and support people.
Just before we wrap up really quickly, I just want to say 2 points. One, fit and healthy look different on different people. Stop being a twat.
Yeah.
And 2, like, when it comes to, because there's one thing that I used to say this all the time, I haven't got time to go to the gym. I still don't have time to go to the gym. Bluntly, gym's just not for me in the sense of going multiple times a week. That's just not how my brain engages with exercise. I mean, every time you go, you're gone a good 2+ hours. Like, whereas, like, by the time you include going to and from, that's just not doable in my schedule. However, my brain likes HIIT for a start, and I can do that from home, and it's no more than half an hour. So when I lose all the travel time and all the extra time in the gym, I'm still doing exercise. I'm still achieving my goals, just in a different way to how you do, or how somebody else does. There is nothing wrong with that, with doing it in a way that works for you. Find your own way, your own path, and you don't have to look like everybody else.
Absolutely. Because I'm aware that gyms can be very intimidating places. They still are for me to an extent. I mean, there's sections of the gym that I deliberately avoid. I don't go into the back bit with all the muscle bound jocks and the free weights and stuff because it's just too intimidating. But like I'll, use the machines and the treadmills and the smaller free weights. Just makes me feel more at home. But
I get that though, because like that back bit where you're on about, I'll only ever go in there when I go. There's a couple of my friends that go in there, and I go in when I'm with them, but I wouldn't go in if I was on my own.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't just go in and pick up some weights and start. No, like not going to happen.
Yeah, I think in summary, I think it's a shit time of year. Nobody's telling you that you have to start your personal journey to self-improvement right away. If you need a couple of weeks just to hibernate, vegetate, do as little as possible just to get yourself through, do it. But if you are inclined to utilize New Year as a time to set these goals, then really have a think about it. Talk it through with somebody as well, like really get the specifics down. Think about what you ultimately want to achieve and how you're going to get there and what steps to put in place. And
be nice to yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, you're not gonna just wake up tomorrow and have totally changed who you are. Mm-hmm. Like, it's gonna take time. It takes time to build a habit. It takes time for it takes time to see results of a habit. Like, just be nice, be gentle. It's a shit time of year in a shit show world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and where we're going. Might not have to worry about it anyway.
Yeah, longer days and brighter days are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Just
yeah. On that delightful note, can I go make food now?
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks. See you next month. Don't be a dick. Bye.
Bye.